Michigan. Welcome to Next Point Wins. And I am your host, Matthew Geely. Florida. I think they're going to come out with a lot of energy.
In trouble in the backfield, wants to throw now, and he's going to go deep. And I mean deep, and I mean touchdown, Florida! Tyree Cleveland in a miracle finish. A Hail Mary that's full of grace for the Gators.
And I am going to take LSU to beat Mississippi State.
He's going to pass off of it, and another touchdown. Dedrick Thomas. Nick Fitzgerald is lighting them up.
But I'm going to jump off the Louisville bandwagon and hop on the Clemson bandwagon. I think Clemson wins that game on the road.
Second and 13, Jackson from the pocket delivers, and it's intercepted. Dorian O'Daniel's got it for the Tigers. And he's got a blocker. Dorian O'Daniel, pick 6, Clemson.
I'm taking Texas and the points to knock off USC. I think that Texas might win that game outright. Yeah, that's right.
For Texas, under a minute to go. They have one timeout left. Ehlinger with time. Ehlinger flushed out. Throws. Touchdown, Texas! Foreman! Wow! The freshman, Ehlinger, is 45 seconds away.
I'm going to take the Boilers, and I'm going to say we're going to win by 14 points. So, book it. Boilers by 14.
For Purdue. It's Fuller, and look at him in the clear. Now in the end zone. Purdue rolling at the start.
Good morning, Purdue University, and welcome to Next Point Wins. I am your host, Matthew Geely. It is the day before. A lot of energy around campus today. It's a beautiful day. It's hot outside. It's going to be hot all weekend. And hopefully we see some heat on the field from the Boilermakers as they are set to host the number 8th ranked Michigan Wolverines here on homecoming weekend. Lots to cover on today's show. If you want your voice heard, you can tweet at me, Matt_Geely. I'd love to see how you guys are celebrating this weekend and what your plans are for the game. Hopefully everybody is going to the game. You're also going to find today's poll question on my Twitter page, and the poll question is, I guess, catered to the biggest topic in sports around the campus here in West Lafayette, Indiana, and that is the football game tomorrow. The question is, Purdue tomorrow will either win by more than 10, win by less than 10, lose by more than 10, or lose by less than 10. So go onto Twitter right now and vote, and I'll have the results at the end of the show. I'll also give you my pick for the game in a little while. Thanks again to the Brainy Bunch for that open. Really nice job. 4-1. That's not a bad week. Texas almost made me look like a genius if they could have just stopped USC for 45 seconds. But USC goes into overtime and wins the game. But I still had Texas by 10 points, so I got that W. Only game that I really missed out on, and I missed out on it by a lot, was that LSU-Mississippi State game. LSU got rolled. They got ran off the field. So 4-1, much better than last week. I'll give you my starting 5 picks in just a little bit. But let's go right into the biggest story. And no, it's not the Rams beating the Niners last night, but I will give you my taste of that because I did stomach through that entire game. And on paper, it looked like it'd be boring as all get out, but it actually was a pretty competitive game and a lot of action, so can't complain really for a Thursday night game. We'll talk about the Rams and Niners in a little while, as well as all the other NFL news and notes from last weekend. Give you my reaction to some teams that surprised me, both good and bad. We'll have that in a little bit. But anyways, biggest story of the day, Purdue, Michigan. Game starts tomorrow at 4 for all you students here on campus who are unaware of that. Breakfast club starts really early in the morning, so get out there. It's going to be hot. It's supposed to be 90 degrees at kickoff. That's just without humidity, and the sun's supposed to be shining. So make sure we're getting a lot of water in us, as well as whatever else you feel the need to drink to get ready for the game. But nobody passing out, all right? Let's all get to the game. Let's be loud, make our voices heard. There's less than 2,500 tickets total left for the game. I know the student section sold out on Monday, and then they opened up a couple more sections for overflow for students, and that sold out. So students, there's still some general admission tickets. I'm sure you can squeeze your way somewhere in that student section if you want. Get to the game, all right? If you look at our schedule and home games left, our next really big game, I'd say, is against Minnesota, and that's over fall break. So a lot of us won't be there for that game if traveling home or going somewhere away for the long weekend. And then you got Nebraska, Illinois, and Indiana being over Thanksgiving break. So once again, people traveling or being home. And Nebraska and Illinois, I wouldn't call them big games. Not very often you get a top 10 opponent coming into Purdue's house. And I'll have my scouting report of Michigan here shortly, as well as what Purdue needs to do to win this game, because they definitely caught the eye of everybody last weekend. It's Missouri, and it's an SEC team, which that says enough, because for a Purdue team, that's usually unwinnable. And email me at nextptwins@gmail.com with your thoughts of the game and what you liked, what you didn't like, what you're nervous about on Saturday, what you're confident about. I thought Purdue played close to a perfect half against Missouri. And then that second half was exactly what you want to see, because it's not very often you get to practice finishing games. And when you have a big lead like that, it's just as important to hold the ball and hold possession and defense play well as it is to put a bunch of points on the board. So our offense looked a little slow, it looked boring, but that's exactly what you want in a second half when you're up big like that on the road in SEC country. Missouri did not look good, and I don't know if that was because of Purdue or because they're not a good team, but it's the best team aside from Louisville we've seen. I mean, Missouri, you have to think they're better than Ohio. And we went into their house and ran them off the field. So literally ran them off the field. Tario Fuller, incredible game. Huge game from Tario. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I think we're fairly healthy. You're going to see both quarterbacks again. And it was funny. I was listening to the SEC Country, SEC Network doing the game, talking about how they didn't know. Like, everybody keeps asking Coach, is one of them hurt? Is something wrong with one of them? Why'd you switch? It's planned, guys. It's like planned out before the game. Each of them are going to get snaps because they are both playing really good football right now. So they both bring a different dynamic to the field, and I think it's hard for defenses. It's hard enough to prepare for one quarterback. It's obviously double as hard to prepare for two. And if they're both playing well, which they both are, and they both look like they could start on any team in the Big Ten, just about. I mean, they're no worse than any other quarterback in the Big Ten, and that's not a biased opinion. Name a quarterback that is well and away better than these two, and I don't see it. Now, that means that we have two good quarterbacks, so they both deserve time, and that's what they're both going to get. So it's not one of them hurt or one of them making a bad decision. It just worked out that after the Blau stalled drive, his first one of the game, I mean, we can't be all that critical of the way he played. It just worked out that it was time for Elijah to come in, and he played well as well. So look for both of them to play. I think Blau, once again, gets the start again this week, but you're going to see Sindelar on the field, and hopefully they can both come out and make plays. If you look at my scouting report from Michigan, I watched almost all of their game because it was the noon game last week against Air Force, and don't get me started on Air Force, because Air Force is year in, year out, they make me laugh. They really do. Because I don't understand why teams schedule against Air Force. Their offense, that misdirection, triple option wing stuff they do, where they went, I think, almost the first half without throwing the football, it's insane. How can you possibly not? I mean, everybody on the field and in the stadium knows you're going to run the ball, and it's still hard to stop. I wouldn't want to play that. I mean, especially as a Big Ten team, you're not going to see another team in this conference. There's really only a couple teams in the NCAA who can run this, and no one runs it as well as Air Force. I had somebody tell me yesterday that Georgia Tech runs it better than Air Force, or Navy runs it, and I was like, no, you're wrong. First off, Navy hardly ever runs it. Navy has turned into a throwing team. They still run the ball a lot, but they pass way more than Air Force does. And you can't tell me just because Georgia Tech's name is Georgia Tech, they're better at it than Air Force, because they're not. And Michigan struggled, and it's hard to prepare against that offense. It goes back to preparing against two quarterbacks. It's hard to prepare against that triple option because, first off, your own players who are trying to run it in scout team don't know it, so they're learning as the week goes by. And if you're Michigan, you want to get the W, but you don't want to be spending all your time learning this new offense when you're preparing for a Big Ten season that's much more important against much better teams. So I think Purdue's catching Michigan at a great time. I don't know how much time Michigan had to spend on that triple option, but for a while there, Air Force gave Michigan everything they wanted. And it was interesting to see. And my overall, I guess I'll go overall and then I'll go into specifics. Overall, for Michigan, this is what I think. Michigan is a good team. They're a great football team. They are very, very good. I don't know if I'd call them great. I take that back. They're very, very good. Yes, they're a very, very good football team. They are not number 8 in the country good. And here's why. Here are the reasons, in my opinion, why they're ranked number 8 in the country. They haven't lost. Fair. They beat a Florida team that can't score the football but found a way to score a little bit against Michigan. They beat that team. They beat Air Force in 2 games. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, you're supposed to win those games. Florida is not a good team. They won on a Hail Mary against Tennessee in the battle of 2 teams that are horrible. I think both of them are very, very bad teams. Until Florida finds an offense, they're going to be hard to watch. The defense is great. That's fine. But you got to put points on the board, and I think their coach is on the hot seat. Same with Tennessee. That's not a game that you should lose if you're Tennessee. When the other team can't score a touchdown until the second half, it shouldn't happen. Their defense is outscoring their offense. It's crazy. So you beat those 2 teams, good. You're supposed to win. Awesome. You're ranked 8th in the country because you have one of the better coaches in the country. Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. I secretly hope that one day soon he will make the jump to the NFL and he's going to coach my Bears. I truly think that that's a possibility. Now, we have Harbaugh. We have their success last year and how many players they're returning got them a top 10 ranking. Okay? I think that their defense is good. It's not as good as last year. And that is starting to come to the front after watching what Air Force could do on the ground against them. I think that their offense is not good. Their defense is good, not as good as last year, but their defense last year was all world. Their defense last year was incredible, and they won a lot of games for their offense because their offense is not very good. They love to throw their tight ends. They have big tight ends. They have NFL caliber tight ends. Their quarterback, Spate, I think he's okay. I wouldn't call him great. He's okay. Chris Evans, running back. Ty Isaac. Evans, the sophomore. Isaac, the senior. Pretty good running backs. The running game is where it's at. You got Crawford and Perry and People Jones on the wide receivers as the wide receivers. Offensive line's pretty good. Defensive-wise, their defense is strong. Their defensive line is very good, and there's our first key to the game for Purdue. Offensive line has to show up and keep playing well. They've been the brightest surprise for this team this year, and they have to keep it up. You have to give Blau and Sindelar time, and you have to establish the run, because if you turn one-dimensional against this team, you're in trouble. Another key to the game for Purdue is their linebackers. I mean, that's supposed to be the strength of their defense. The defense all around has been playing fantastic this entire year. Creating turnovers in the red zone and getting stops on third down have been incredible. I mean, look what they held Lamar Jackson to do. That's a Heisman Trophy candidate who just, while he lost to Clemson, he played really well, and he's putting up crazy numbers against everybody he's facing, except for Purdue. He didn't put up crazy numbers. Completion percentage-wise, he did. But we kept him contained, and we kept the offense in the game, just couldn't get that last drive, which happens. There's nothing more you should want from this Purdue team. I want them to come out on Saturday and be in the game in the second half. I want to keep the fans involved. I want to keep the crowd into it. I want to have a taste of victory in the second half, and then you know what you got to do? You got to chalk it up to Coach Braum and his offensive genius and his brother up in the press box, and you got to hope that they can find a way, because I have all the faith in the world in them, and I think that we have a great chance to pull off this upset. But your linebackers have to play well, and the reason why the linebackers have to play well, Bailey, he along with everybody else on that offense, on that McCollum, Bailey, even Bentley, they all have to be able to cover the tight ends and stop the run. That's the 2 biggest things in Michigan's offense. Once you make them start stretching it out and spreading it out and throwing it down the field, they get in trouble, because their quarterback doesn't make the best decisions always. So if you can stop the run and stop the play action pass to the tight ends, your pro style offense that Harbaugh loves to run, you can limit that. You have a great chance to be successful on defense. So if you're Purdue, that's exactly what you got to do. Also, scouting Michigan, their secondary is very good. There's no other way to put it. Their secondary is incredible. Their linebackers are okay. I think their secondary, but their D-line, really, their D-line is their strong spot. And it'll be interesting to see how our offensive line can do. What's interesting about this Purdue team is if you look around the Big Ten, there's a lot of great Big Ten defenses. Penn State is one exception. I think their offense is equally as good as their defense. We'll talk about Penn State coming up here in a little bit. But Big Tens are known for low-scoring defensive games, and that's why when we get into bowl games, we beat a lot of teams because our defenses are so good. Well, you have a Purdue team now who can put some points on the board, and they can do it in a hurry. Ask Missouri. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get points on the board in the first half and just fly out of the gates. You know they're going to come ready to play. You know they're going to give you 100% effort. Those are two things, as I've said all year long, you never have to doubt. We're going to come out, we're going to play hard, and we're going to play 100% all we got the entire time. No doubt about it. Is that enough? And that's where students, you can come into play, making Ross-Ade the loudest environment we're going to ever see. Us seniors, definitely the last time we're going to see it. I hope that as a junior, next year is equally as awesome. But compare it to my first 2 years on campus, this is the most full and the loudest Ross-Ade is going to be. And that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. We look forward to basketball. We've always been a school that looks forward to basketball season. Well, now we're looking forward to Saturdays. We're looking forward to Saturday afternoons. Yeah, afternoons. That's right. We've yet to play a noon game, guys. This is game 4, and we've yet to play at noon. We've played a primetime game and 2 afternoon games. That's unheard of for Purdue. And it's only going to keep happening as long as we keep playing well because people want to see us. We are one of the top stories in college football right now. This should come as not a surprise, but this should, let's not forget where we came from. I guess that's where I'm going with this. If something would happen and we go out and, as the poll question says, let's say we lose by more than 10 and we get thumped a little bit, that shouldn't take your interest away from this team. And I'm afraid that it might because we are not favored to win this game. We are playing really good football. Michigan is a really good team. Something's got to give. And if that something is us getting blown off our field, while it will be extremely disappointing and no one will deny that, we shouldn't lose hope in this team because this is a bowl team. And this is a team that can make a run in their conference. They really can. Wisconsin's pretty good. Nebraska's okay. Other than that, I don't know. I don't really see much. I truly don't. And that should excite you because this is a team that's going to compete. They're going to be in every game we play. I fully believe that. There's not a game on paper left on the schedule where you look at it and say, that's a game that's unwinnable. There are no unwinnable games. Minnesota, not bad. It's going to be an interesting game. I'm glad we had that at home. I wish it wasn't over fall break, but I think Minnesota's beatable. Illinois, that's a win. Northwestern, that's a win. Iowa, pretty good. Wisconsin, pretty good. Nebraska, that's a win. So you look at it, you got Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. Those are your 3 biggest games. You got to beat 2 of them if you want a chance to win the West. You got to beat 2 of them. I like my chances against Minnesota at home, and I like my chances against probably more Wisconsin on the road. So there you have it. It's there for the taking. Stay with this team. Don't lose hope no matter what happens. Also, Saturday morning, 10 a.m., BTN Tailgate coming to town. They call it the Big Ten Network version of College Game Day. I think College Game Day should be here, but they're not. BTN Tailgate is, which is equally as awesome. I'm appreciative Big Ten Network coming by. That show starts at 10 a.m. They're giving out free T-shirts, donuts, and coffee. I'll also be there working for the Big Ten Network, so if you see me, say hi. Love to see you all. It's going to be hot. Kind of mentally preparing for it. I'll be there at 8 a.m., but you guys shouldn't come until about 10 because that's when the show starts. Bring your signs. Be loud. Let's show them what West Lafayette's all about. Also, an interesting point from Michigan is their red zone problems. they've been having some serious issues putting points on the board, putting touchdowns on the board in the red zone. That was kind of their Achilles heel, and it's why Air Force stayed in the game last week, is because Michigan couldn't score a touchdown. And we've seen Purdue's red zone defense causing a couple turnovers against Louisville and once again against Ohio. We got to keep putting the ball in the end zone. Our red zone percentage is crazy right now. We're scoring every time we get in there, and that's fun to see. And that shows the genius of Jeff Brom and his son. That shows how ahead of it they are from the defense on the play calling. Wide open touchdowns. Our tight ends, our two tight ends look like they're NFL. I mean, they're NFL prospects. They're going to be drafted by somebody before this is all said and done. There's no doubt about it. They're both really, really good, and they're playing really well, and they're huge targets. Anthrop has been an incredible surprise at wide receiver for us. Who would have thought that Jackson Anthrop would come into this season as a redshirt freshman and give the kind of effort that he's been able to give? Cole Hardman and Bryson Hopkins are two of the best tight ends in the Big Ten right now, stats-wise. You got Mahungu, Zico, the speedster number 7. Look for him to get a deep threat. I got Zico with a deep threat one time before the end of the game. We're going to take a shot deep, and it's going to be to Zico. He's so fast. Crazy good. And then you got Gregory Phillips, the senior. So, I mean, for the Boilers, it's all going to come down to running the ball and keeping possession and putting that ball in the end zone. And then on the other side of the ball, it's as simple as when they get in the red zone, hold them to some more field goals and try to. I mean, if you go 7 to their 3, I can do that math. That's a W. And just got to put some points on the board. It's going to be fun. I can't wait, if you can't tell. I'm pretty excited about it. Some other college football notes and news. Nebraska fires their athletic director. He was the one who was in charge of firing their longtime coach, Bo, who took them to multiple bowl games and multiple winning records, and then they got rid of him, and boom, down the drain goes their football program. So no surprise that he is out the door as AD. It'll be an interesting time for Nebraska to find a replacement and get somebody in there. Here are my starting 5 picks for this weekend. Just a reminder, I did go 4-1 last weekend. Pretty proud of myself, and thanks to the Brainy Bunch for getting all those picks in the show open today. We'll play that again towards the end of the show when it's time to wrap this thing up. So my first pick, the game is Notre Dame at Michigan State. This is a no-brainer for me. Michigan State's going to win that game. I'm pretty confident with that. They're going to win it by, we'll say, 14 points. So I'll take Sparty by 14 over the Irish. Second game, Penn State at Iowa. Another good Big Ten matchup. Two teams that trying to get their season started out strong. I'm going to take Penn State to beat Iowa. I think Penn State's the best team in the East at the moment. I think they're better than Ohio State, and I think they're better than Michigan. So their defense is so strong, and they got great running back, great quarterback, good offense all around. So I'm going to take Penn State over Iowa on the road. Next game, Mississippi State at Georgia. Mississippi State, the one team that keeps me from going a perfect 5-0 last weekend. So they're kind of my Achilles heel at the moment, it seems. I'm going to take Georgia in that one. I think their quarterback, Nick Chubb's, really, really good. He'll be a top prospect going into the NFL if he stays healthy. I think Georgia keeps rolling. That's a battle of 2 undefeated teams. I think Georgia gets that win. Next, Alabama at Vandy. Vandy's getting some points there. You know, everybody's trying to say that Vanderbilt might shock them and beat them at home. I don't see it. I think it's one of those games that now that everybody's saying that, it's going to really make Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide mad, and they come out and they roll. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think Alabama wins by more than 18 points. So I'll take Alabama in that one. And then last but not least, and this goes with my answer to the poll question, Michigan at Purdue. I've given you my keys to the game, given you my scouting report of Michigan. Students, we need you there. Only 2,500 tickets left. We need everybody there. I'm going to take Purdue to win it by 4 points. So Boilermakers shock the world, and when we do beat them by 4 points, I'm going to be on the field because I have to go to the press conference right after the end of the game. if you guys all decide to run the field, which I've heard that might be a possibility, I wouldn't blame you. It's going to be the biggest win in your 4 years at Purdue to this point, and arguably the highest ranked team we're going to see in West Lafayette for a long time. So if we do win this game and you guys all decide it's going to be a nice idea to run that field, don't run me over. I'm going to have, right when I get down there, I'm going to find myself a spot that I know I can get to get out of the way, because I'm not trying to get ran over by a stampede of students. So I'm going to take Boilermakers by 4. Let's shock the world. I want a victory. That's really all I want. So let's get it. Those are my picks, my starting 5 picks for college football. We'll rehash those next week. Hopefully it's a 5-0 week. If it is, I mean, you guys should start thinking about taking my word on some of these games, because I'm pretty confident this week. I don't see a problem with any of them. Obviously, picking Purdue is it's more with my heart than my head, but might as well roll with it. I'd rather pick them and lose than not pick them and win, you know? I'm all in. All right, so that is my college football rundown for the weekend. It's not a great slate of games. Obviously, I tried to pick the best ones on the market. Not a whole lot of marquee matchups. Sometimes that's sneaky good, though. So hopefully everybody gets to watch a bunch of college football on Saturday. And we'll go into Sunday and NFL later in the show. But first, I think that we need to dive into some unsportsmanlike conduct, because I have a couple that are I think they're pretty good. These might be some of my best ones of the season. So here we go, unsportsmanlike conduct.
And now, an unsportsmanlike conduct.
Personal foul, number 15, unsportsmanlike conduct.
That's a horrible call!
Here are the unsportsmanlike conducts of the week. Kind of got away from sports a little bit on a couple of these, but thought the first one's sports related, so we'll hit that one first. This happened in Oklahoma, and this is kind of near and dear to my heart. My dad has taught and coached youth football for many years, and I played youth football, and we always get a kick out of stories like these, and this one's pretty good. So in Oklahoma, a youth football team of third graders, third graders. There's our first problem. If you're in third grade, you shouldn't be playing tackle football. Now, when you're in 5th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, college, professional, play. Play the game. If you are lucky enough to continue to play all of those years, play the game. Parents, if your kids want to play football, let them play. 3rd grade, no. 4th grade, no. 5th grade, yes. Let them play the game. It's a beautiful game. It's the best game on this planet. Let them play it if they want to play it. Okay, off my soapbox. Back to the story. So, 3rd grade football, Oklahoma Youth Football League, and yeah, I bet you can already try to kind of guess what's going to happen. Coach fight. Love it. So, I'm going to give you the story on why these two coaches decided to get into a fist fight, resulting in one of them getting choked out by the other one and having to be separated by 12 adults, with their 3rd grade children on the field crying because they don't know what's happening, because these two grown men, well, they're supposed to be grown men, decided to get in a little skirmish on the sidelines. One team was up 36-7 on the other, and the team that was winning, one of the assistant coaches, the guy who the guy who started the fight, he asked the offensive coordinator, which is the guy who got put in the chokehold by the first guy, he asked the offensive coordinator if they could get some subs into the game and actually get his son some carries. So this assistant coach putting on his daddy goggles, that's what we called it in my family, daddy goggles. That means when you coach any sport, you're supposed to take the daddy goggles off, meaning if your kid's not the best, just accept the fact that he's not the best and play everybody the amount of playing time they deserve, whether if that's fair play time or putting the best product on the field. Even if there's a kid ahead of you that's better than your kid, that kid should play over your kid. Don't put on the daddy goggles and think that your kid is better. So daddy goggles were put on by this assistant coach, and he went over to the offensive coordinator, asked if they could get some subs into the game. I mean, they're winning 36-7. They're smoking this team. It's fourth quarter. Get some subs in the game, coach. Oh, and can my son get some carries? Well, the offensive coordinator responded, and I quote, "Your son is slow, and he's not going to ever run the ball." All right, that's a little harsh. Yeah, I can understand why Daddy Goggles number 1 could be a little upset that offensive coordinators, first off, insults his kid, calls him slow, and second, pretty much says, you're never going to get the ball. Well, that causes the fight. And the coach that put the offensive coordinator in the chokehold has been banned from all leagues, and he's embarrassed by the situation, says he'll never volunteer again. That's awesome. The other offensive coordinator's been suspended and waiting for a verdict on if he can coach again. Who really cares? And the video is pretty funny. You can look it up. You can see it all happen. You can see it all unfold. You can see I don't know who was taped. Somebody must have been doing game film, but you can see the coach walk over and ask the coordinator and then walk away, and then they start yelling at each other from about 30 yards away. And the next thing you know, the assistant coach is charging at the offensive coordinator and just throws him in a chokehold. So funny, but also not funny. First off, don't let third graders play football. Second off, take off the daddy goggles. Third, don't get in a fight over it. Are you kidding me? Yeah, these kids are like on the field crying because, well, one of them's dad's is unconscious, and the rest of them are just scared because you don't know what's going on. I mean, that'll make anybody cry. Not anybody, but third graders for sure. I'd be scared. That's fine. Unsportsmanlike conduct to those 3 coaches, to the entire third grade football league, and to Friday Night Tykes. Why Friday Night Tykes? If you don't know what that is, it's a show that was based out of Texas. I don't know if they're doing other seasons at other places, but it pretty much shows leagues like this with these kids who are in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade playing football, and the coaches are they think it's the NFL. And it's so sad that it's so real, that it truly is a thing. But these coaches are just insane. Like, relax. 5th and 6th grade should be all about 5th through 8th grade is development. Your kid's not going to be in the NFL after the 8th grade. So might as well not think he is. Develop. Teach technique. Teach how to be safe and play the game safe. Because when you start as early as 3rd grade, kids aren't being taught proper technique because they're not old enough to understand. And if you're not old enough to understand, you start doing things wrong, and that's how you get seriously hurt. Not tackling with your head up. Spearing people, not using your hands correctly, stuff like that needs to be taught at a young age where the kid can understand it, so when he gets to play in high school, college, and if he's lucky enough all the way to the pros, he has proper technique and it keeps himself from getting seriously injured. I never had a concussion. I never had a concussion that was diagnosed by a doctor. Let's make that perfectly clear. And I understand the CTE and the research. I know we just got the story that Aaron Hernandez, who killed himself in his cell, the former tight end of the Patriots, who was charged for murder, his brain just got tested and it was deemed to be under CTE. He had advanced stages of CTE, which, if you don't know, it's post-traumatic, but basically post-trauma from concussions that football players are getting, and it's causing suicidal thoughts and other things. We talked about the Aaron Hernandez situation. I think I had a show the next day after he committed suicide, and I talked about how I thought that as a person, it'd be extremely hard to leave your cell after being there for so long and go to a hearing where you have people around you and you're seeing your family and friends who are there supporting you at this hearing, and then being told that you have to go back into that cell. I could see that being extremely difficult mentally for somebody. You have a second of almost like you're free because you're out, and not out, but I mean you're at least within the realm of a real world setting, and then you're getting thrown right back in to that cell. I can't even imagine how hard that would be. Now, I'm sure this CTE thing had something to do with it, but concussions shouldn't scare people. People are jumping to conclusions about concussions. You can get a concussion in anything. Dance is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. I understand that. There's a difference, obviously. But you can get hurt in anything. So people who say kids shouldn't play contact sports, well, truly ballroom dancing is a contact sport. So be more specific about what you mean. Now, if you mean kids shouldn't be playing football or hockey or lacrosse. I disagree. I think that sports teach kids valuable lessons. I think sports are an easy way for a kid to make friends, to find themselves, to stay active, to stay healthy, to get off the PlayStation, to get off their smartphones when they're in 5th grade. And it's a chance for them to go outside, be part of a team, work hard, practice something, get better at it, want to work at something, to get some work ethic, to get better at it, to be a good teammate, to respect your teammates, to respect coaches, to be coachable, to listen. There's so many lessons in sports, and we shouldn't be keeping our kids from this all because of concussions. Now, you see stories like this in 3rd grade where these coaches are getting in fights, or you're seeing Friday Night Tights where these kids are getting demolished and doing tackling drills where it's 10 yards apart, run as fast as you can, and collide in the middle. Kids are tackling with their heads down. They're getting seriously hurt. They're hurting their heads, their necks. Yes, that is wrong, and you shouldn't let your kid play that league. You should get your kid involved in an organized league. This starts in 5th grade at the earliest. You can start in 6th grade if you want. I don't really care. But if your kid wants to play and wants to try it, let him. And then if he tries it and says he doesn't like it, that's fine. Whatever. But you shouldn't keep him from trying it if he wants to. Unsportsmanlike conduct, Friday Night Tykes, youth football under the age of 5th grade, and coaches not acting like adults. Number 2. I saw this story this morning. I was in management recitation. I finished my problems, so I was on my phone looking up things for this. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I don't get time to. You think I prepare for this forever. Sometimes I don't have time. Last night I worked on some of it, but I was kind of a couple sportsmanlike conduct short. And email in. Everybody out there, email into the show if you see something that you're like, that person needs to be called out for being themselves. Email in. I'd love to feature on the show. Well, I found this on Sportsmanlike Conduct this morning, and it was pretty funny because, we're this is season 2, episode 4. We're getting to know each other. I feel like I know I know a lot of members of my audience that I would never know from the show, and it's been awesome. I'm sure you guys are learning a lot about me. Well, let me give you a little tidbit into more of my life. I hate fraternities. I hate everything they stand for. I'm not in a fraternity, obviously, from my attitude towards them. I think that you should never have to do chores and kiss somebody's back end in order to live with them, and I don't think that somebody can treat you like dirt for a semester and then become your brother for life or sister for life. No, garbage. I don't think it exists. I think it's stupid and a waste of time. Well, this frat boy student, I don't know the school name. It's probably better that I don't. He was at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and he decided to take a penny and try to carve his frat letters. I saw the letters in a picture. I don't know what they stand for because truly I don't care. People talk about frats. I don't know. I know on this campus it's kind of a big deal. And, if you're in it and you like it, that's fine. If you're in the sisterhood and you have sisters for life and you have a big sister and a little sister, fine. If you like it, cool. Glad you love it. But, you talk about it to me and I don't really care. I fake listen, or sometimes you'll say something that's kind of funny to me, or I'll find it funny even though you don't mean it to be funny. I'm just like, that's so stupid, it's funny. So I don't really know Greek letters or what they mean. I know a few of them. I don't know what this guy was in. You can go find that article online as well. Anyways, he was taking a penny and trying to carve frat letters into the Lincoln Memorial. If you don't know what that is, culture yourself and read a history book. I don't know why I'm asking if you know what that is. You should definitely know what the Lincoln Memorial is. Anybody out there doing a quick Google on their phone, students walking to class, first off, pick your head up. Don't walk across the street with your head down in your phone. Second, you should know what the Lincoln Memorial is. Anyways, he was caught red-handed doing it, as he should be, and now he faces up to 10 years in jail and up to a $25,000 fine. All because one of your big bros or little sisters or whatever you call them in your frats probably gave you the idea, hey man, it'd be so chill, like super chill if we go and carve our letters in the Lincoln Memorial. And then the other guy was probably like, what's the Lincoln Memorial? Then they Googled it, like any of you out there doing it right now. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be super dope. And then they went and did it. And they got caught. And I'm glad they did. $25,000. Good luck starting a GoFundMe or having a pledge party to cover that one. Insane. 10 years in jail, $25K. That's a fun joke gone horribly wrong. Unsportsmanlike conduct to you frat boys. Hopefully jail's super chill. Number 3, a group of Mississippi inmates busted out of jail. And I'm going to sound impressed because I'm slightly impressed by this story. There is an unsportsmanlike conduct in here, but it's impressive. So they broke out of a jail. They robbed a bargain store that was like a mile away from the prison. I guess they hopped a fence to get out of jail, walked a mile, robbed a bargain store, which, genius. You're already in jail. You can't get charged for burglary if you're already in jail. Nice, guys. Smart. And then this is where it gets great because you see it all the time in movies and TV shows. I watched Chicago PD, and there was a whole storyline that lasted about 3 episodes long. I know it's not real, but a lot of it's based on from real stuff, kind of like CSI is based off of real stuff and Law and Order and whatnot, based off of true stories. You see these people break out of these jails and they try to get away, and they usually end up in much worse trouble than they started in or dead because they get shot. You rarely see somebody get away and stay away. You always get caught, it seems like. Well, these guys were smart, and they knew that, or at least they thought they knew that, because they were like, well, we got all this stuff at the bargain store. Let's go back to jail. Hilarious. So what they stole from the bargain store, I think it was a Dollar General or something. They stole cigarettes. Smart. Cigarette lighters. Well, of course, you can't have cigarettes without cigarette lighters. Phones and other merchandise that they thought they could sell back in jail. Entrepreneurs. Incredible idea. Yeah. Let's go make a profit off of these other inmates and let's help everybody out. So they got back into jail without anybody knowing it, and then they eventually got caught because they were selling all this cigarettes and lighters and phones and stuff. But, I mean, job well done, guys. My question, and I'm sure you can't interview these inmates, but if you could, my question would be, was it harder getting out of jail or getting back in? I have to imagine getting back in would be hard, but, I mean, incredible, really. Hilarious. So, unsportsmanlike conduct to the Mississippi inmates for, well, busting out of jail and robbing a store and being in jail in the first place. But, really, kudos to you because it's pretty impressive what you're able to do. Those are my 3 unsportsmanlike conducts of the day.
And now, an unsportsmanlike conduct.
Personal foul, number 15, unsportsmanlike conduct.
That's a horrible call!
I don't know. I need somebody to tweet at me, Matt_Geely, or email me at nextptwins@gmail.com. Am I due for a new unsportsmanlike conduct audio? I still like it. I don't know why I like it so much, but I really, really do. Anyways, there's our unsportsmanlike conduct for the day. Moving on, let's talk about NFL real quick. We're going to start with the Niners and Rams. Oh, man, we only have 18 minutes left in the show? Jeez. Time's flying when you're having fun. All right, Niners-Rams last night. I watched the whole game. I turned it off in the fourth quarter, trying to go to bed, and then as I was laying in bed on Twitter for one last scroll through, I see that Niners recovered the onside kick and had the ball back down 2, so I'm like, crap, and I flipped it back on and watched the end, which they called a really bad offensive pass interference on the Niners that kind of sealed the deal for the Rams. They got the win 41-39. Jared Goff looked really, really good against the Niners, so I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. Todd Gurley looked really, really good too against the Niners, so take that with a grain of salt. I should have gave the Rams unsportsmanlike conduct because their jerseys were ugly. Ugly. Horrible. I get the color rush thing, and it gets people talking like I am right now about it, but, ooh, bad look. Niners jerseys were really, really cool, the All Blacks. They needed black helmets. The helmets were a problem, but the jerseys look nice. So, yeah, Rams get the win. Jared Goff looked good. I don't know. It's hard to tell. When you play a team like the Niners, it's really hard to tell who's good, who's bad. And if you only beat them by 2, you put up a lot of points, though. 41 points, that's a lot of points. It's the first Thursday night game where we've had high scoring in a long time, and that seems to draw people's attention. NFL ratings are down. They were down last year, and we blamed it on the presidential election, which is probably fair. A lot of people were invested in that and watching that. But there's no election right now, so I think Commissioner Roger Goodell and the NFL needs to look at why this is the case. I think a part of it is there's a lot of mediocrity in the NFL. A lot of teams that are near each other, like equal level of good and bad. There's not like a bunch of really good teams So there's only a couple of really, really good teams. One team that we thought was going to be really, really good that didn't turn out so far to be is the Giants. What is wrong with the Giants? Well, let's start here. Your offensive line is horrible, and Odell Beckham Jr. is not healthy. Even though he was out there last week, you could obviously tell he was a decoy. He hardly got any targets. Brandon Marshall, is this the end of Brandon Marshall's career? Because it's hard to watch. It's painful to watch, really. Bad drop in the fourth quarter for Brandon Marshall, and he's been on nowhere near the same page as Eli Manning to start the year. The running game is nowhere to be found, and that's because their offensive line is so bad. Eli Manning is getting his head knocked off every game because their offensive line is so bad, and their defense, while they're keeping him in games, needs to get off the field more, and their offense needs to have a couple decently long drives to give their defense a break. So until the Giants figure out their offensive line, they're going to be in bad shape, and the division is too good to mess around like they are right now. I think the Giants go on a run. They have a couple weeks in a row where they probably play really well. I'm afraid it's going to be too little too late. But as long as Dallas, who's my next team we're going to talk about, keeps playing bad, they're going to have a chance. What is wrong with Dallas? And the second question, is there actually something wrong with Dallas? I don't know the answer to this. I've said all along that they're 1 year away. I still thought they'd win this division. They ran into a team, the Denver Broncos, who had them figured out from start to finish. That Denver defensive line made Ezekiel Elliott a no-show. They made the Dallas offensive line a no-show. And when Dallas can't establish the run, as you saw last weekend, it's up to Dak to throw it, and he threw it way too much. I think that you should have sticked with the running game a little longer, Jason Garrett. I think he kind of gave up on it too early. Even though nothing was happening, that's your bread and butter, so you got to stay with it for a while. I don't think there's anything wrong with Dallas. I think they just ran into a buzzsaw in Denver. I think they get back on track this week. Another primetime game for them Monday night against Arizona. Arizona didn't look very good. Dallas probably wins that one by quite a bit. It's on the road, but I think Dallas gets the W. Dallas's defense looked all right. They were on the field too much last game, though. Once again, not offenses. When you're the quick strike, big play kind of offense, that's good when it works, but when it doesn't, it just leaves your defense out there to dry because they are playing a lot of snaps. And they get tired, and you saw that in the second half. Well, second quarter, really, for Dallas. They didn't really have a chance. Trevor Siemian looked like all-world. It's crazy to watch. I don't know if he's a good quarterback or not, but he sure looked good last week. So interesting to see where the Cowboys go from here. It's go to the NFC North. First off, Bears looked horrible. Thankfully, I didn't get to watch it because I was doing play-by-play of the Purdue volleyball sweep on Sunday against Loyola. Good weekend for Purdue volleyball as they beat Loyola and Miami of Ohio 3-0, 3-0, so 2 sweeps. They've yet to lose a game at home. They just swept a 10-1 Northwestern on Wednesday night, so they swept them 3-0. So they've yet to drop a set at home, which is pretty crazy. And volleyball team looks really, really good. They got their next match Saturday evening after the football game against Ohio State. So hopefully we celebrate a football win and everybody kind of overflows over into Holloway for that match. The team definitely deserves your support. They're strong year in and year out, and they're really, really good this year. Daniel Coutinho is probably going to be either top in the Big Ten or one of the top players in all of the Big Ten and really all of the country. She easily could be an All-American. Brooke Peters in the back row, junior, really good libero for him. Then you got Azarius Stahl and Sheridan Atkinson on the outside, really strong hitters for Purdue, and a couple freshmen, Jenna Otek, one of them that have shown up as well and given quality time for Dave Shondell and that Boilermaker volleyball team. So anyways, I didn't get to watch the Bears play on Sunday. Thankfully, I was scrolling through the Twitter during commercial breaks during my broadcast, and it did not sound good. People were calling for Mitchell Trubisky within like halfway through the first quarter. I couldn't believe it. I guess Glennon looked really bad. I saw the highlights. He made some really, really bad throws. But Tampa Bay is a good team. Bears are not a good team. There's no surprise there. I think they're an improved team. For everybody yelling, screaming that they want Mitch Trubisky in the game, don't, because we play a good Pittsburgh team this weekend, that's going to be an L. Then we play Green Bay. That's not going to be pretty. Then we play Minnesota, not pretty. And then we go to the Saints. Now, that is where, if you want to bring them in, that's the time. I think Mitch Trubisky, if he starts anytime earlier than that, might get killed. But against the Saints and that horrible defense, yeah, you can throw him out there if you want. I'd be good with that. And if Glennon can find a way to turn it around and win one of these next 2 or 3 games, maybe he keeps earning that job. I don't know. But you can't throw him into the Wolves. Don't bring him in next week on Thursday night against Green Bay, please. NFL Network and CBS are probably like licking their chops, just begging for Mitch Trubisky to start, because what a great story. Easy thing to talk about. You still got Aaron Rodgers, so either way you're going to have a nice story, but it would really add to the overall watching interest of the rest of the country if Mitch Trubisky started that game next week, and I think it'd take Glennon to play horrendous this week for that to happen. He wasn't the only problem with the Bears last weekend, by the way. No running game. Tariq Cohen making a dumb play on punt return. Defense nowhere to be found. You got to get Kyle Long healthy. You got to get the defense healthy. Losing Freeman for a long period of time hurts the linebacking core, and they got some work to do. Speaking of the NFC North, are the Lions a good football team? I don't know the answer to that question. That's a loaded question. They haven't played a lot of good teams so far, but they've taken care of business. I think their running game is way more improved than I thought it would be. Their running game is really pretty impressive. And with Sam Bradford not playing for the Vikings, Lions have a chance to gain some ground here stay with the Packers and gain some ground to maybe get some space between them and the Vikings for second in the NFC and work towards maybe giving the Packers a run for their money. It's just hard to buy into Matthew Stafford. He's going to have to win some big games before I dive in and say that Lions are a serious contender to win that division or to get a wild card. But so far the running game's been good. Offensive line's been much improved. Tight ends look really good. That Ebron, he's a really good tight end for them. And defense has been playing well. So it'll be interesting to see how they play against Atlanta this week. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep that competitive. Even if they lose that game, if it's close, could be a good sign. That game is a 1 o'clock start. It's at Detroit, so they might give Atlanta something to look at. Next, and this one is I just put it in here because I just get a kick out of it. Cleveland at the Colts. Yeah, that should have been in the Thursday night game. You want to talk about a good ball game? Here's the funny part. Cleveland's favored to win that game. Oh boy, got some audio going here.
Monumental week. Oh, this is.
Cleveland is favored to win that game. Crazy. It's the first time they've been favored to win a game on the road since like 2014. Yikes. Colts, yikes. Jacoby Brissett's going to be your starter. Once again, that's a game the Colts have to win. You got to beat Cleveland. You have to. At home, you can't lose to the Browns at home. I think the Browns are going to win this game, but you can't let it happen. It's going to happen. You can't let it happen, Colts. It's definitely going to happen. So I'm going to take the Browns to win that game. Hopefully they beat them pretty good. I think Chuck Pagano's probably 1 foot out the door. He's going to need some help. And 1.5 is the spread. Crazy. Unbelievable, really. Go Browns. And let's see, anybody else? That's pretty good that's some of the bigger games in the NFL this weekend. Once again, not a really strong slate of games, but a lot of road teams favored to win games, so it'll be interesting to see if anybody can pull off some upsets at home this week in the NFL. Moving on to baseball real quick before we wrap up the show, only 7 minutes left in the program. I wanted to dive in real quick into this. If you missed it, Todd Frazier hit a rifle into the stands, foul ball, in a Yankees game Thursday, I believe, and it struck a young fan, a young girl. I don't know where it hit her. ESPN was really good about not showing you could see like the crowd huddled around her, but you couldn't see her, which is probably a good thing because it was probably really graphic because I think it hit her pretty square in the head, if I'm correct. And she had to be taken to the hospital. Really sad moment. Players on both sides all over the field on a knee praying. Matt Holliday was crying. He was on the base pass. Todd Frazier looked like just pale, just ghosty white. You could tell he didn't do anything wrong. He just hit the ball, and it was no one could have put their hand up and blocked it, especially a little girl. I think she was 4 or 5 years old. And it brings up a point that should have been made before this happens, and I don't know why in sports it always takes a tragic event to cause change. But we need to extend the netting at these parks. I go to like a local Fort Wayne Tin Caps game back in my hometown, And like just this summer, I sat down the first baseline and like constantly I'm looking at the game because like it's scary. Like it's terrifying at some point because if you're not paying attention, that ball can get on you in a hurry and it can do some serious damage. It sounds like the girl's gonna be okay. She deserves all of our thoughts and prayers, but we gotta extend that netting. They make the netting so clear nowadays. Like if you ever go to a hockey game and sit behind the goal, you don't even notice it's there. You truly don't. It doesn't affect you one bit. And it'd take 2 games for a fan to get used to that netting around a park. And we've already seen the A's, the Padres, and the Reds all say they're going to extend their netting. It shouldn't take somebody dying or almost dying for this to happen. Let's make the game safe. Commissioner, come out and demand that all of these parks extend that netting. I don't care how far, but it's got to go. And if people say, it's going to keep kids from catching fly balls, no, you can still catch pop-ups, but it's going to stop you from getting smoked by a liner in the face. It's dangerous. Somebody's going to get hurt, and it's sad, and it's got to be fixed. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. It's got to be changed. I mean, if I'm a parent, I purposely won't buy tickets that aren't from behind the netting, and you see those tickets are more expensive. Well, that's because I'm sure it has something to do with the safety and people, like the demand of those are going faster than the tickets that aren't behind netting at hockey or baseball. It's got it. These balls are just getting hit too hard by these guys who are just too strong. It's not good. All right, time to wrap up the show. Let's give you poll results. The question was, Purdue will win by more than 10, win by less than 10, win by... Boy, I said that really weird. Purdue will win by more than 10. They'll win by less than 10. They will lose by more than 10, or they will lose by less than 10. And the results are, at this moment, lose by less than 10 is tied with win by less than 10 as the leaders in the clubhouse. Nobody so far thinks that we're going to win by more than 10. And a couple people, 24%, think we're going to lose by more than 10. So 38% tie for win and lose by less than 10. And then right behind at lose by more than 10, 24%. If you're listening to the podcast later today, that poll will be up all day. So go to my Twitter page, Matt_Gili, and cast your vote. I'll be checking it throughout the day to see if it changes or fluctuates. Checked it at the beginning of the show, and not many people were jumping on the win by less than 10. Glad to see we got some listeners listening live right now who took what I said, and I guess I convinced a couple people out there to go on and vote. So I appreciate that very much. Everyone enjoy the weekend. Students, hydrate, drink a lot of water, have fun at Breakfast Club. Get out to the BTN tailgate, be loud, bring your signs, come say hi to me, donuts, coffee, free T-shirts. And then, that goes till noon, and then you get a couple-hour break to grab a nap or continue your festivities or grab a bite to eat, and then get over to the stadium because when 4 o'clock hits, it's going to be rolling. It's going to be rocking. Let's play some football. Loud and proud. Make a difference. We will be back next Friday to recap what happened during the game over the weekend and all the other football action. Hope everybody gets a chance to watch a ton of football. And I'm going to close out with soccer traveling to IU on Saturday. So good luck to the soccer team Saturday night, taking on the Hoosiers. Hopefully it's a Boilermaker W Saturday. Volleyball, soccer, and football all in action. Got baseball and softball with fall ball games going on throughout the weekend as well. Enjoy homecoming. Alumni back on campus. Happy to have you. Hopefully you're reminiscing about the good old days, wearing that gold and black. Boiler up, hammer down. And from my favorite movie, I think it's a proper way to end the show. I don't know about you guys, but I want a victory. This has been Next Point Wins.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Campbell. What kind of power you got?
Oh, man, you know I got some soul power.
What kind of power you got?
What kind of question is that? I got soul power.
Yes, you do.
Right on, let me ask you something now, Mr. Burkett.
Yes. How strong are you? I'm too strong.
What? How strong?
I'm too strong. Too strong.
Right on.
I want a victory.
Oh, I want a victory.
I want a victory.
I want a victory.
You want a victory?
And welcome to Next Point Wins. I am your host, Matthew I'm going to take Florida. I think they're going to come out with a lot of energy.
In trouble in the backfield, wants to throw now. He's going to go deep. And I mean deep. And I
and I'm going to take LSU to beat Mississippi State.
He's going to pass off of it. And another touchdown. Dedrick Thomas. Nick Fitzgerald is lighting them up.
But I'm going to jump off the Louisville bandwagon and hop on the Clemson bandwagon. I think Clemson wins that game on the road.
Second and 13. Jackson from the pocket delivers, and it's intercepted. Dorian O'Daniel's got it for the Tigers. And he's got a blocker. Dorian O'Daniel, pick six, Clemson.
I'm taking Texas and the points to knock off USC. I think that Texas might win that game outright. Yeah, that's right.
For Texas, under a minute to go. They have one timeout left. Ellinger with time. Ellinger flushed out. Throws. Touchdown, Texas! Foreman! Wow! The freshman, Ellinger, is 45 seconds away.
I'm going to take the Boilers, and I'm going to say we're going to win by 14 points. So, book it. Boilers by 14.
For Purdue. It's Fuller, and look at him in the clear. Now in the end zone. Purdue rolling at the start.